Tieu Nu began her day under the soft light of the morning sun that filtered gently through the modest windows of her new home. The air was fresh and filled with the subtle, earthy aroma of the garden surrounding her house. This garden was more than just a patch of earth. It was a source of sustenance, hope, and determination. At just 17 years old, she had taken on the role of a single mother, embracing the challenges and responsibilities that came with it. Her youthful face reflected resilience and quiet strength as she welcomed the day with a sincere wish for health and happiness to all who might hear her voice. Today marked an important day. After months of nurturing the soil and tending to her crops with meticulous care, it was time for the harvest of her yams. The tubers had grown steadily, burrowing deep into the earth, storing the promise of nourishment and future stability. She moved slowly, making sure the fragile skins of the yams were not scratched or damaged during the digging. Gentle hands coaxed the tubers one by one out of their earthy beds. Each yam varied in size and shape, but they all carried the same potential. Despite the variety, she knew each was precious, for these were not merely crops. They represented her ability to provide, to sustain, and to create a life for herself and her child. Her farm was humble, yet every inch carried purpose. The small patch of cultivated soil was an artwork of natural abundance and careful labor. Her life had become a rhythm dictated by the seasons, the weather, and the relentless demands of cultivating food. The yams grew below ground, hidden away from sunlight, yet she understood all too well that the health of the roots signified the success of the entire harvest. The yams she grew were unique. Although not highly productive in quantity, their quality was unmatched. She treasured these tubers not just for their taste, but for their nutritional value. They had a high starch content, making them an excellent substitute for rice, a staple food in many homes. This property was vital to her, offering a way to feel full longer without frequent trips to the market or extra expense. Tieu Nu took pride in the fact that she could plant the smaller tubers left over from this season and ensure a future harvest. This cycle of growth and regrowth was the foundation of her sustainable farming. And so, every cluster of yams she unearthed was carefully sorted to preserve what was needed for the next season. The serenity of her daily routine was punctuated by simple but meaningful tasks. She allowed the chickens from her small coop to roam freely around the garden. These birds scratched the soil, searching for insects and pests that could potentially damage the crops. Their presence was natural pest control, a small ecosystem in balance. The chickens also fed on leftover food scraps, reducing waste and strengthening her sustainable lifestyle. Sorting the harvested yams was a meticulous process. She separated the larger tubers intended for sale at the local market from the smaller ones reserved for replanting. Each step was executed with care and purpose. The market offered a chance not just to sell produce, but to connect with the wider community and secure a small but steady income. The price she received was reasonable, at about 0.6 USD per kilogram. This price, while modest, was fair enough to cover essential expenditures, such as cooking oil and seasonings for the meals she prepared. Cooking the yams was a simple ritual that brought comfort and satisfaction. She boiled the tubers for 20 minutes, adding only a pinch of salt and seasoning to enhance their natural sweetness. When fully cooked, the yams were soft and flexible, their flavor subtly sweet and deeply satisfying. It was a meal that provided not just calories, but a sense of fulfillment and connection to the earth. The natural qualities of the tubers made them a delicious and healthy alternative to more conventional foods. Each bite reinforced her bond with the land and her determination to build a peaceful, stable life despite the difficulties she faced. Despite the challenges ahead, Tieu Nu remained hopeful. She often expressed gratitude toward her small but resilient community and the continuity of life that farming represented. The cycle of planting, growing, harvesting, and selling was more than an economic activity. It was the embodiment of her daily struggle and triumph. The careful tending of each yam, the nurturing of chickens, the preparation of simple meals, and the participation in the market all contributed to a narrative of perseverance and grace. The garden surrounding her home was a living testament to her dedication. Over time, she had learned to read the subtle signs of the soil and plant health, to anticipate when rains would come and when the yams should be harvested for best quality. Each day was filled with small decisions and acts of care, underscoring her commitment to both her family and the land. The peaceful life she sought was not one free of hardship, but full of meaningful work and quiet dignity. Her home stood modestly but warmly at the heart of this life, a shelter that protected her from the elements and kept her connected to the earth. Though young, she understood the significance of permanence and roots, metaphorically and literally. She hoped that one day, when her child grew older, the lessons of self-reliance and respect for nature would be passed on. For now, every morning began with the soft sunrise and the gentle reminder of the yams waiting beneath the soil, an enduring symbol of her perseverance and hope. Tieu Nu's life as a young single mother and farmer resonates deeply with the broader experience of many Vietnamese rural farmers today, rooted in a rich tradition of connection to land and community. Her story illuminates the powerful relationship between the farmer and the land, reflecting cultural values and economic realities that shape everyday life in Vietnamese agricultural villages. Her daily life revolves around the land, which is more than a resource. It is heritage, identity, and survival. For Vietnamese farmers like her, soil holds the memories of ancestors, the culture of their people, and the backbone of their livelihood. Farming is intrinsic not only to their economy, but also to their way of life, forming the foundation of Vietnamese culture and family tradition. The responsibility of caring for the soil and crops is a duty passed down through generations, binding people to their ancestral roots and sustaining their communities. The yams she plants and harvests are a good example of this balance between tradition and practicality, combining age-old agricultural knowledge with careful stewardship of the environment. Although her crop is noted as not highly productive in terms of yield, it is valued for its flavor, high starch content, and nutritional benefits, illustrating how quality often takes precedence over quantity in traditional farming practices. This focus aligns with the wider observations that rural agriculture in Vietnam, while challenged by modern economic pressures, often maintains sustainable methods intertwined with respect for nature. Tieu Nu's use of chickens as natural pest control highlights another dimension of traditional ecological knowledge, where farming is not just about planting and harvesting, but managing an entire ecosystem. Chickens help reduce pests while fertilizing the soil. This synergy exemplifies how Vietnamese rural farmers work harmoniously with their environment rather than seeking to dominate it, a philosophy embedded in generations of agricultural practice. Economic realities also shape her life. Although her produce fetches a modest price per kilogram, this income is vital to cover essential household needs like cooking oil and seasonings. Many Vietnamese farmers face similar economic challenges. Their income is often low and irregular, tied closely to crop yields and market conditions. This precariousness limits their ability to invest, expand farming operations, or improve living standards. Yet farmers like Tieu Nu persist with ingenuity and hard work. Her cooking practices reflect the frugality and resourcefulness common among rural families. Preparing simple meals from homegrown produce, seasoned lightly to enhance natural flavors, connects daily life to the land in an intimate way. Food is a source of nourishment and cultural continuity, a tangible link between past and future through the act of preparing and sharing sustenance. Her young age and status as a single mother add another layer of complexity and resilience. Raising a child while managing farm duties demands an extraordinary balance of strength, patience, and hope. Her story exemplifies not only the challenges faced by many rural Vietnamese women, but also their central role in sustaining family and community life. The broader cultural context includes the significance of the village as a social and cultural hub. where traditions, language, and relationships form a collective identity. Villages serve as spaces where agricultural life is intertwined with festivals, customs, and values, reinforcing social cohesion even as rural economies evolve. This communal aspect helps sustain individuals like Tieu Nu, providing a network of support and shared knowledge. At the same time, rapid economic and social changes are altering rural Vietnam. While improvements in infrastructure and education are raising living standards, disparities in income and opportunity persist. Many farmers remain vulnerable to natural disasters, market fluctuations, and limited access to technology or capital. The transition to modern agricultural practices and diversified rural economies creates both opportunities and challenges, requiring adaptation while preserving cultural heritage. In summary, Tieu Nu's life paints a vivid picture of the complex realities of Vietnamese rural farming. It highlights the intimate link between people and land, the cultural richness of agricultural traditions, the economic challenges of small-scale farming, and the resilience of young women managing multiple roles. Her story is a microcosm of the ongoing story of Vietnam's rural communities, rooted in history, shaped by nature, sustained by faith and perseverance, and facing the future with determination. The countryside where Tieu Nu lives has undergone significant changes over the recent decades. Infrastructure improvements brought electricity, roads, and better communication networks. These elements changed the daily routines of farmers who once labored in isolation. Modern homes replaced old ones made of mud or wood. Village centers now hold markets where produce is traded quickly, sometimes immediately after harvest on the fields. Motorbikes and small trucks replace traditional water buffalo and manual carts, giving farmers mobility and speed. Access to mobile phones and the internet connected rural farmers to distant markets, weather forecasts, agricultural advisories, and new techniques. Though the work of tending soil and crops continues to require sweat and commitment, the tools of labor and means of engagement have evolved.
Modern farmers reflect a blend of traditional wisdom and scientific knowledge. They apply advanced agricultural methods, including the use of improved seeds, fertilizers, irrigation techniques, and pest control. Many farmers, including younger generations like Tieu Nu, participate in training programs offered by government agencies and agricultural cooperatives. These programs emphasize sustainable farming, increased productivity, and adapting to climate variability. The ability to predict weather, identify pests early, and choose high-value crops helped farmers reduce risks and optimize yield. Cooperatives and farmer groups have become critical for shared resources, knowledge exchange, and bargaining power in markets. Tieu Nu is part of a cooperative that facilitates access to credit and bulk purchasing of inputs at lower costs. These collective efforts also open avenues for marketing and exporting specialty products like organic yams or high-starch tubers. Government support through policies and subsidies encourages cooperative membership and innovation to transition from subsistence farming to commercial agriculture. The shift helps stabilize incomes, improve living standards, and generate employment opportunities in rural areas, widening the economic base beyond farming. Education plays a strategic role. Many young rural people now attend secondary and higher education. Some, including women, return from cities or universities with skills in agricultural science, business management, and environmental technology, applying their knowledge to improve farm productivity and sustainability. Tieu Nu aspires to be among these new generation farmers who combine their inherited farming traditions with modern expertise. Her ambition is to create a better future for her child and community. Cultural continuity remains even as farming methods and rural life modernize. Community festivals, ancestral worship, and cooperative labor practices are preserved, providing social cohesion and a sense of identity amid change. Villages support collective responsibility for resource management, such as shared irrigation canals and pest control initiatives. These practices ensure that while individual farmers advance economically and technically, the communal fabric of village life continues to nurture and protect its members. At the same time, modernization presents challenges. Many smallholder farmers face high production costs, fluctuating market prices, and climate risks. Land fragmentation limits economies of scale. Older farmers sometimes resist technological adoption. Migration of youth to cities for better jobs empties rural villages of labor and vitality. Balancing modernization with social equity and environmental sustainability is an ongoing national priority. Policies target poverty reduction, improved healthcare, education access, and environmental protection in rural zones to ensure all farmers share in progress. Tieu Nu's daily life integrates these transformations. Her mornings start in the field with a smartphone app providing weather updates and crop care tips. Using improved yam seedlings, she applies eco-friendly pesticides and drip irrigation systems funded by a government subsidy. She participates in a cooperative meeting via video call discussing collective marketing strategies. Household chores are eased by clean electricity and a water filtration system installed through rural development initiatives. Her child attends a local school supported by a government scholarship, another step toward breaking the cycle of rural poverty. Her ambitions reflect broader aspirations of Vietnam's rural population to advance beyond mere survival. She plans to diversify her farm with vegetables and poultry, explore organic certification, and expand sales through online platforms. She dreams of investing in mechanized equipment and green energy solutions while preserving the fertile soil and natural beauty of her homeland. Her story exemplifies how Vietnamese farmers today are actively shaping their futures, blending heritage with innovation. The transformation of rural Vietnam into a modern, vibrant, and sustainable agricultural economy is a complex social process fueled by government programs, grassroots initiatives, and individual determination. Tieu Nu embodies this dynamic at the heart of the nation's progress. Her story captures the spirit of resilience and hope carried by millions of Vietnamese farmers as they navigate the demands and opportunities of the 21st century. Vietnam's commitment to rural modernization includes comprehensive rural infrastructure projects, vocational training, and financial inclusion tailored to farmers. Technologies like precision farming, mobile apps for market information, online banking, and climate-smart agriculture are increasingly accessible. Partnerships between government, scientists, and private enterprises foster innovation ecosystems that translate research into practical farming solutions. These breakthroughs enhance productivity, reduce environmental impact, and increase farmer incomes. Social welfare programs also reduce economic vulnerability while promoting health and education, creating conducive conditions for sustained rural development. Farmers like Tieu Nu are transforming from isolated agricultural producers into knowledgeable entrepreneurs and community leaders. Their dual expertise in tradition and technology positions them as key drivers of rural revitalization. This modern Vietnamese farmer contributes to food security, rural employment, cultural vitality, and environmental stewardship while participating in global food value chains. Their success stories inspire younger generations, challenge stereotypes, and redefine rural identities. The upward mobility of farmers is evident in improved housing, access to healthcare and education, diversified income sources, and greater participation in governance. Women farmers increasingly hold decision-making roles in families and cooperatives, challenging patriarchal norms and nurturing gender equity. Empowerment programs integrate women's voices in agricultural policies and rural development plans. This inclusivity boosts social capital and community resilience. Tieu Nu persists with unwavering dedication to her farm and family.
Her story is a testament to the ongoing transformation of rural Vietnam, where tradition meets modernity, hardships turn into opportunities, and youthful optimism fuels the dreams of a better tomorrow. Her daily efforts plant more than yams. They sow seeds of hope, growth, and sustainable progress for future generations.